Hi everyone, it's Laura. Thank you so much for watching. With today's video I'm starting a new series, Sewing for Beginners, as you have seen from the title. And in this series I would like to help anyone who just started sewing or anyone who thinks about learning sewing and doesn't know how to start. And it should be also great for people who already learned sewing but they are still looking for different ways how to do things. I have learned sewing from my mom when I was 6, which has been by now 36 years ago, which is quite a long time, and I learned many things along the way, either from my mom, who has been a professional, or from other people, and I found out a few tricks for myself, so I hope that I can help you guys out with this series. And in today's video I would like to start with the very first step. I would like to talk about choosing your sewing machine, what is important. I will show you my current sewing machine. I will also tell you what I like about that machine, what I don't like, what other options are there. So if you want to know more about sewing machines today, then please keep watching. And also if you don't want to miss any other future episodes of this series, then make sure you subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. And now let's get into the video. So this is currently my sewing machine. It is the Singer Brilliance. It is not the most expensive one, but it is also not the cheapest one. My sewing machine has an electronic control where I can select the stitches that I need, and there's a little window that shows me which stitch has been selected, how wide the stitch is and how long the stitch is. There are a few arrows that allow me to move the needle to a different position, and then I can also adjust the length and the width of the stitch with those arrows. I will explain it then later on in detail. This sewing machine has here a little drawer that I need to open in order to be able to change my bobbin, which is here on the bottom. And the reason why I have chosen a machine that has this system instead of having a window on the top of the little sewing table here where you sink the bobbin in is that I can easily open it and clean it. I have not cleaned it out after my latest project because I wanted to show you how much gets caught. So first let's look at how dusty that here is. You can clearly see that there is a lot of dust. I'm going to clean it with the brush. And this is all only after sewing a few dark pieces. And this is how much dust gets in. And I just like that, being able to clean the machine myself after every single sewing project, because then I keep this really clean and dust free. And I have the feeling that anytime I had a machine that was built this way, it lasted much longer than the machines where you put the bobbin in from the top. This can be just my personal impression and I can be totally wrong, but this is also my experience because I had quite a few sewing machines in the past and I went back to this system again and I'm much happier with that. So now you can see it looks much cleaner, much better. Now I can put the bobbin in again. So this machine offers in total 59 different stitches, and I have to be honest with you guys, you do not need that many stitches, mostly ever. If you're about to sew like shirts, dresses, maybe some home accessories, something stretchy, there's gonna be just a couple of stitches that you would really need in your life. So I always use a regular straight stitch. This is very important. The stitch next to it that looks like the regular straight stitch, but there are 3 rows of it, is a stretchy stitch, like an elastic straight stitch. This is great for any material that tends to stretch out a little bit, where you need to have a little bit more space between the stitches so that when the fabric stretches that it wouldn't tear the thread. I have to be honest, I have no idea what is this one for because I never needed that. Then you have here zigzag. You have 3 kinds of a zigzag here, but you normally need only one, the classical one. You can make it, let me set this for you. So here I'm gonna turn the light also a little bit more on so that you can see what is displayed here. Here you can make the zigzag wider or narrower. So I'm right now going in the opposite direction, so it's gonna be a little bit more narrow. And with the another arrow I can make it wider. That means there's gonna be more distance from left to the right. And here you can make it longer. That means that the distance between the triangles are going to be a little bit flatter. This is what it does. I'm going to film separate videos in which I will show what you can do apart from the obvious reason with different kind of stitches, because there are some other tricks that you can use a straight stitch for or zigzag for. So I'm not going to go into this in detail. So I need the straight stitch, the elastic straight stitch, and zigzag. This stitch looks like a zigzag, but it is made of single small stitches. This is a great thing for hemming of stretchy stuff, or for hemming any parts where you want to make sure that the whole folded fabric is going to hold. So I need those four from the first row. So now you can also see the rest of the stitches. I use very often this. This is the number 24. That is a stretchy stitch that also kind of hems the fabric at the same time. I use this one when I'm sewing shirts, leggings, whatever stretchy material. And this is a great thing for me. I just cut then the excess fabric. You might have seen it a couple of times if you watched any of my previous videos. And I love this one. And then I use any of those stitches that come in handy, which are the buttonholes. This sewing machine is programmed so that it can make a buttonhole in one step, and that is definitely something I would recommend. So all those stitches that I have pointed out, so let's repeat this again: the straight stitch, the straight stretchy stitch, regular zigzag, the stretchy zigzag, the kind of overlock kind of stitch, and a buttonhole stitch. These are all the stitches that I use on regular basis. I think I have used like 2 or 3 other stitches in the past, but that was it. So if you find a machine that has any of those and has a buttonhole program where it can make the buttonhole in one step, you're good to go. So you don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on your sewing machine just because it has those many stitches. It's really not necessary. This is a regular foot, like the classical regular sewing foot. This is the one you will be using most of the time, and all the machines that I have ever purchased had at least a few different sewing foots, including this one, because yeah, you basically need this one, otherwise you won't be able to do anything. So this is the regular sewing foot. This machine came with a few more. There was a zipper foot. So this is the zipper foot. It is more narrow in the middle, and it allows you to sew on the side of it. You will definitely need that one if you plan on sewing in zippers. There are different kinds of zipper foot. Some of them look completely different, but most of them look like this. This one is made of plastic, but I had mostly a similar version made of metal. I'm sorry the camera just won't focus properly on it, but I hope you can still see something. And this thing that looks probably very weird to you, but it is extremely useful, is for buttonholes. So there's a little drawer at the end where you place your button in, yeah? And then you attach this like that to the sewing machine, so the button would be in the back. And this slides to the front. And you have here a certain distance that widens with the size of the button. So the further those two parts are apart, the bigger is going to be this distance, which is exactly where you going, I mean the size of your buttonhole, you know. I will also make an extra tutorial for this because this would be too much for the beginning. But this sewing foot is what you would need if you have a machine where there is a program for sewing buttonholes in one step. And it is definitely something you want because it saves a lot of time, and the buttonholes are so much prettier than if you would have a machine where you need 4 steps in order to make them. With my sewing machine came also this guide. This is a piece of metal that you attach here on the top. It's a little bit tough, but I hope I should be able to do that. And what it is, it slides over the fabric parallel to the direction when you're sewing. This is great whenever you're quilting or sewing through somewhere where you just need to keep a straight line with something that is a little bit further apart. So you can make more seams parallel to each other and you want to keep always the same distance. So this is what it is good for. So those are the basic things that you definitely need, and anything else, any other sewing foods are just a nice extra. This metal piece that I have here is something that broke off from here, from the side. The sewing machine had a threading help, so which allowed me to easily thread the needle without making it with my own hands to reach the hole in the needle. But this little thing broke off after like 2 days, and I didn't want to exchange the machine because I was in the middle of a project and I really needed to finish, so I was not in a position to return the product for another one. Plus, the way as it was built, I think it would break off anyway after a while because it was just attached to a piece of plastic, which is one of the things that I do not like particularly about this machine. There's a lot of plastic. It is not as heavy as old sewing machines, but the problem with a lot of plastic is that pieces can break off. They can be worn off much faster than metal machines. So this is definitely a disadvantage of modern sewing machines, where there is a larger part of all the machine parts made of plastic. And I was not really happy about that this little thing broke off so fast. But I don't mind threading my needle myself, so that's why I didn't bother to return the machine. And plus also, as I said, I was in the middle of a project, so that was one thing I didn't like particularly. What I also don't like so much is that I find that this sewing machine is not as strong as some other machines I had previously. I feel like when I'm sewing through more layers, the needle tends to break more easily than it did with machines that I had in the past that were obviously much stronger and could sew through many more layers of fabric more easily. But other than that, I actually like this machine. I like a lot the fact that I can open the bottom and clean it myself, as I have shown you, and all the stitches that I need are there. It is very easy to thread, it is very easy to maintain, and it is also not very big, so it's very easy to put away. So overall, I'm super happy with the sewing machine. I could imagine buying it again. I'm considering buying a little bit more simple machine next time, but a little bit better, of a better quality when it comes to the strength of the machine, where I would be able to sew through more layers. The drawer that comes out has a storage area, so I store here the sewing foods that I use the most. I have here also the guide, and when I put the machine away, there is the thorn for the thread that I also store here, because I store the machine here in my room, and I don't have enough I don't have space high enough so that I could leave this on, so I'm also storing it here inside. But right now I'm going to leave it outside because after I finish this video I have to sew something, or I want to actually. I don't have to, but I want to. And the rest of the sewing foods that I don't need that regularly, I keep them in a little Ziploc bag. Okay, hold on, there's one more. I have different sewing foods. I think this is also a subject for another video. I have a few that I bought extra. I have like the flower foot, this is for stitching. Then I have a bias tape for a sewing foot, and then I also bought such collection of different sewing foot. But I think this is definitely something that needs some extra time in order to explain it and to show them, maybe even separately. And that is also what I wanted to show you, because today it's all about choosing your sewing machine. You don't have to buy a machine with certain sewing foots, because you can buy many of them extra, either as a whole package, or for example in our store, sewing supply store, they sell them extra. I bought the bias tape foot there, and I also bought there, for example, those bias tape forms extra. So you need only the basic things, because if you are a beginner, as I said, you will need just like 2 or 3 sewing foots anyway at the beginning, and the rest you can always purchase later extra. Same goes also for bobbins. Mostly the sewing machine comes with like 2 or 3 bobbins. Very often they sell now just those plastic bobbins. I'm not so fond of them. Okay, please camera, could you focus for us? Thank you. So these are those little plastic bobbins. I don't like them that much. I like rather the metal bobbins. They last much longer. I think they're just of a much better quality than the plastic bobbins, and you can buy those also separately in stores with sewing supplies, maybe even on Amazon or somewhere else on like on the internet. If you would Google metal bobbins, you would definitely find places where to buy them. So I have many plastic bobbins from my old machines that kind of collected over the time, but whenever I decide to buy a few more, then I always buy just metal bobbins, since I find them much better. By the way, I have a video in which I have shown you 2 ideas of how to make yourself a really practical and easy bobbin organizer, because you know, you can of course buy them also online made of plastic, but this is a piece where I upcycled an old box and it's just made with dowels, so I will link this video down below. And this is how I store my bobbins. There is one thing I would definitely recommend before you decide which machine you want to buy. Look in the area where you live and find out if there is someone who can repair sewing machine, and ask them what brands are they repairing, for what brands can they do maintenance. Because once you buy your sewing machine, if it has after a while a little glitch and you can't use that, and you can't find yourself what is wrong and you can't repair it yourself, you will need someone who would do that for you, so that you don't need to throw away the machine and buying a new one. And sadly, it can happen very fast. I had the experience, my 2 previous machines were both from the brand Privilec, and I think after like 3 years, right after the guarantee expired, of course, they just stopped working, they had some problems, and I couldn't find anyone who would repair them. Or at least anyone who would repair them at reasonable costs. So it is always best to know who is going to do the maintenance for me. Either you are knowledgeable about that, you know how the machines work and you can do it yourself, or you know that there is someone who would do that for you at reasonable costs. So I'm very lucky now, because the sewing supply store that is basically next door, they started like 2 weeks ago offering also service and repair for Singer sewing machines, which they didn't in the past, but I found someone else also here in Vienna in Austria who would do that for me. I would have to go a little bit further from my home, but now I have it basically next door, and that is very convenient. They do it for several other brands, and that's awesome. And also what you could do is, if you find a place like that that's not far from your place, you could go there and ask them what sewing machines are great right now. What would you recommend? What sewing machines can you repair? And for what sewing machines, for what brands can you do the maintenance? Is there something I should consider? Maybe they can help you out with the decision. So this is definitely something you could consider. I will look on the internet for several sewing machines where I think that the equipment they have and the stitches might be great. I have no experience with other machines than Privilec, Singer and Pfaff so far, and Toyota. but I will try to find some models that look great, and I will list them down below in the description box for you. These are going to be machines where I can say, even if you want to sew stretchy things, they would be great for you, and I will try to find different price ranges, so just look into this in the info. And I will also try to find this particular model that I have and list it also down below for you. So that would be it for today. Before I go, I would also like to point out that anything that I've told you in this video, or anything that I'm gonna show you in future videos, is not the only way how to do things, and it doesn't mean that it's the best or perfect way how to do things. I'm just going to show you anything that I learned personally, anything from my personal experience and what works for me. So feel free to check out other YouTubers who are filming about sewing. It is always best to get as many tips from different people as possible, because just because one thing works for me doesn't mean that it has to work for you, and just because one thing didn't work for me doesn't mean that it can be helpful for anyone else. So I wanted to point that out, because it's all about preference, and I think there is very seldom only one way to do things, and we always should try to find out what works the best for us personally. And it's always great to try out a few other things as well. So that is all I have to say for today. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I hope that this series is going to be helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you won't miss any future videos. I will not be filming just this series in the next weeks. There will be also other projects. Yeah, and also there is this little bell for a while now, next to the subscriber button. If you want to get notifications whenever I upload the new videos, just hit the little bell if that's what you want. You can also follow me on Instagram, link is down below. And again, thank you so much for watching. I wish you a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you with the next video. Bye!